I'm feeling the truth. The people be with Beleo. We were telling them we not believe. The people be with Beleo. We were telling them we not believe. The people be with Beleo. We're telling them we not believe. The people just be we believe. We were telling them we not believe. Representative, senator, minister, president, very suffering us today. Oh, Liberia, the people, you can see Liberia. Liberia suffering, Liberia.
All right, so welcome to the show. It's the print news review here live again on this platform. We're broadcasting live from a wonderful country, the United Kingdom. Coming up shortly, our studio guest will be with us, our guest analyst for the Friday's edition of the print news review, Fidel City Budy. Of course, he will be here with us. We'll be looking at those stories that made the headlines today and actually make the news in the newspapers, especially those that are online from Liberia particularly. And from there, we are microscoping. We're going back. We are still on this issue of the missing money and things. So we engage you as well to make your impact as far as the issue of this money is concerned. We still have $25 million. There's nothing, no actual story out of it. Remember, just to remind you, today actually is the deadline that the president mandate or the deadline that GSC was given by the president of Liberia to come up with a report. I've been saying today whole day I've been online trying to search the net to see whether they release any press statement also. But remember the last time they published a letter in which they said that because they didn't receive a formal communication from the president, they were not going to just listen to what the president said. Anyway, Fidel, good evening to you. Welcome.
Hi, Max. Good evening to you. Good evening to everyone, and thanks for having me once more.
I don't know whether you are one of those the music is talking about. Are you also tired? Listen to it small, then we can continue. All right. Calling all their names and say they're really suffering us today. You think we better?
I don't know about you, Max, but I can't be better because I didn't vote for
No way.
the current status quo. So look, today I was thinking about it, and there are times when I really want to say to people that right there, why you voted for. But then at the same time, you realize that these people are our brothers and sisters, and irrespective of whatever mistakes that they made in terms of picking the right choice in leaders, I think we still have to wish the best for them, because when any Liberian does well, the hope is that all of us do well. So, you know, I get tempted a lot of the times, you know, and I really want to just say, you know, write, you know, probably write something or say something that goes along the line of "we told you so," but then obviously, you know, it wouldn't help anybody, because at the end of the day, it's a situation whereby it's not right, and we're all going to suffer, you know, whether you voted for the system or not. When the economy is as horrible as it is, when the so-called Prople Agenda for Prosperity and Development is not being well articulated, so people don't understand what it is that we're going to be doing to achieve these targets, then obviously we all have to think outside of the box and find a way to help,
Okay.
you
Yeah.
know, and help this government turn things around for the good of Liberia.
Well, the 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 ability is there. We you know, perhaps some of us are willing. Even you don't necessarily have to be on the ground. You can be an advisor. You don't have to be. You don't necessarily have to be on the ground. It's just that uh, I mean, we have this notion in Liberia that so long you are not part and parcel of the power at the beginning, um, you intend not to be included. So that's why we always having problem. I remember once upon a time I was listening to the former finance minister of Nigeria, Mrs. Akiweli, uh, who served at the World Bank, I think, before. And she said she was talking about Africa and the emerging economy or the emerging Africa also. And one thing she reminded us there was that, you know, we have the tendency that when a leader serves their terms, whether it's 5 years, 6 years, or whatever time or so in Africa, when they leave the office, whatever, even if they have left something unfinished, the next government that comes, instead of them continuing from where that individual stopped, they will forget about that individual stuff and they open new page to continue from there, you know, and think. Uh, and she said, I'm having problem with this unless we realize that, you know, blueprints are there for people to go, and when you meet it, you start from you continue from where that individual stopped, and development will actually move faster. But some of it, and you're even talking about that, even in some African countries, buildings are left untouched because perhaps the other government that was in power who started aid, and this government that came in, the individual is not friend with that or was never friend with that person. Also, they don't even want to touch that building also, and it just leave it at that, you know, and it just goes down like that. Anyway, let's continue because of time. Let's quickly just visit some of the headlines, but we just want to remind our listening audience tonight, those of you that are following the show, we stay talking about this, the issue of the economy, which is quite paramount to any nation for that matter, especially Mama Liberia moving forward. But we want to macroscope this issue of the $25 million, which of course the president mandated the GAC to conduct an they call it a forensic investigation, they refer to it as, and give its findings, a thing about by virtue of the timetable the president set. Today is supposed to be the day. And so we're asking you as well, the GAC and the $25 million, is Liberia being duped? Do you think Liberia is being duped as far as the issue of this $25 million is concerned? What are your thoughts? While we have our, you know, special studio guest or guest analyst for the show for Friday edition, Mr. Fidel Budy, we'll continue to talk on other issues as they are reported in the papers as well. So you can continue to give us your thoughts as well on the. Do you agree the GAC and the $25 million? Is Liberia being duped? That's the question we're asking here. Okay, let me quickly visit the some of the three papers I just brought up because of time. The Daily Observer, or no, the Liberian Observer online. Senate action may face challenges of legality, constitutionality. think you're talking about if the issue of the impeachment happened to go ahead. It says Senate action may face challenges of legality, constitutionality. Right? Auditors in Liberia are not independent. Auditors in Liberia are not independent. This story says that Senate Secretary Sengbi are paid US 20K unpaid rent to girlfriends of the deceased. Right, that one is business. Police arrest 94 in connection of Ganta mob violence. Wow. Police arrest 94 persons in connection to Ganta mob violence. When the story have some interest, at least you can read it twice. You talking about girlfriend? I know that why observer went and put the other story. Pick the other man story come to about girlfriend paying rent also. All right, that's the Liberian Observer online. Let me quickly go to the New Public Trust. We want to do more talking tonight on the issue to get more from Fidel tonight. Ministry of Gender saddened. Ministry of Gender saddened. Fire girl allegedly beaten to death by guardian. Wow, sorry. Ministry of Gender saddened. Girl 5 allegedly beaten to death by guardian. Okay, and we see the gender ministry there in this photograph. Of course, JPC and Carter Center review access to justice activities in Liberia. JPC and Carter Center review activities or access to justice activities in Liberia. I think it's better for us to get some kind of help now as far as the justice system is concerned. So, especially what going out now or going up there in the house, something our state trying to just continue to follow, not to even make any contribution yet. Liberian police beat, arrest journalist. Sorry, let me get that story right. It's not Liberian. Ghanaian police beat, arrest journalist. I have no idea where that took place because that should be in Accra, Ghana. Liberian government urges Firestone to delay laying off hundreds of workers. And we see the president picture in this one, the plantation and Firestone headquarters there in Liberia. Liberian government urges Firestone to delay laying off hundreds of workers. I don't know whether that's a private entity. I don't know how you guys are going to handle that. Panic hits Liberians in U.S. as Trump ends DED March 31st. I think we touched that story last week. I don't know whether, before we move forward, Fidel, as usual, whether you have any interest of any story here.
No, I think if we could just get a little bit of that story about the government asking Firestone to delay the firing of or the the laying off of hundreds of Liberians. I think because that will feed into some of the conversations that we're going to have later. I think it will be good just to get a gist of what the government is trying to do to avert the situation.
All right, let's quickly get that. It's not that long. Let me get that to you guys as well. It says that just days after Firestone natural rubber plantation announced it will in April begin laying off some 800 workers, the Liberian government is calling on the American company to delay the planned layoff. Firestone, which is Liberia's largest rubber plantation, some 45 miles outside Monrovia, and is subsidiary of Bridgestone Americas Incorporated, last Monday said it has taken the decision to slash its workforce because its losses are continued and unsustainable. Wow. Okay. But on Thursday, March 21st, 2019, a Ministry of Information statement signed by Minister Eugene Nangbe said it had earlier this week initiated talks with Firestone. The government of Liberia held a constructive meeting with the management of Firestone concerning its plan to lay off workers because of financial losses the company says it has sustained in the past 10 or more years. According to the government's statement, the meeting continued on Wednesday, March 20, and filled a conference call with senior management at the company's headquarters in Nashville, Tennessee, USA. Those who took part in a conference call were an array of government officials attended the meetings which were held at the Ministry of State for Presidential Affairs. During the discussions, the government said it requested a negotiated settlement that would prevent or delay the planned layoffs, with the CDC government proposing to work with Firestone to address concerns about its current business model. In response, the management of Firestone is said to have informed the government that the company has incurred losses of around US 20 million annually for the past 10 or more years and is at a point where the situation can no longer be sustained. According to the information minister, the Firestone management clarified that the layoffs will actually affect 600 people, as the other 200 workers are normal retirees. The company, it doesn't matter the number, my friend. The company further informed the government that 200 of the affected employees work at its rubber wood plant, which has been shutting down in the past several years because the US 16 million it invested in the plant has not proven viable for the company. As a result, the company plans to sell the business or shut it down totally, the information minister's statements said. The management is also said to have agreed to remain engaged with the government on different options the GOL is proposing. Meanwhile, a third meeting has been scheduled for early April when members of the senior management team from Nashville will be in the country. The government is therefore calling on all concerned to remain calm and law-abiding as its dialogues with Firestone to reach a reasonable outcome. All right, so that's the story of Fidel. Does the number really matter? Is there about?
Well, the thing is that there's a few things that we just have to look at here. I think the first thing is we have to commend the government for trying something. I think the fact that they reached out to Firestone, the fact that they tried to propose ways, even though the thing is the government doesn't have a clue in terms of what needs to be done. And the right way to go about it is call Firestone and say, look, what can we do? Unfortunately, based on what this message is saying, Firestone is saying that, well, there's nothing you can do because, we're losing 20 million a year and, it's unsustainable. There's no way we can sustain losing that kind of money. So we have to cut back on our number of people working. I think when it comes to the redundancy, the numbers, I think the 200 that have been retired, that matters because, it means that these guys are natural leavers anyway, so they were leaving anyway, whether Firestone decided to lay people off or not. 200 people were going to be made who were going to retire because they've reached the retirement age. So it is a significant news because it means that we're talking 600 instead of 800. That's significant. So that's the second thing. The third thing, which is probably more of a rant from me, is the fact that as a neo-Marxist, it always happens when, and it because it happens here in the UK as well, when companies are losing money, instead of reducing how much money they take out in profit, they want to continue taking out the same amount of money they take out in profit, and they want to save in other parts of the business. And usually what that means is employees will lose their jobs. I think, we need to, and not just Liberia, but the world, we need to start having an honest conversation about these big businesses so that they can understand that the people that work for them are human beings and they should be treated as such. So, for example, Firestone is saying, oh, we're losing 20 million a year. So if, lay off 800 people, it will bring that down a little bit. But if you check Firestone books, they're probably taking hundreds of millions of dollars out every year in profit. All they could do is just reduce the amount of profit they're taking out, and then the rest of that could be channeled into keeping these people in jobs. Unfortunately, big companies will not do that. Governments, not just in Liberia but across the world, need to start to have these honest and difficult conversations with big companies and say, look, these are people, these are not machines, they're not animals, they're people with feelings, with families. We need to come to a place where we treat workers with the dignity that they deserve, and people need to stop being so greedy where they want to take so much money out, and where that money is not being made, they decide to lay people off to try and compensate for the excess profit that they want to take out. Like I said, I'll finish on this point, and I commend the Liberian government for trying, even though it's clear that there's nothing that can be done. Firestone already has a very favorable agreement with the Liberian government. They pay peanuts for the land that they have. That they, what they pay in yearly rent is peanuts. Compared to other concessions in Liberia and across the world. So reducing that any further or giving it extra breaks will be detrimental to the Liberian government, because it will affect our revenue intake. We already do not have enough money. It will affect our revenue intake, and I think Firestone needs to be fair with Liberian people. They've been there since 1926. We've been partners with Firestone Rubber Company since 1926. I think it's about time. It's almost 100 years. Which 2019. In the next 7 years, it'll be 100 years that Firestone would have been in Liberia. I think they need to show some good faith to the Liberian people. They've made a lot of money out of Liberia. When the land was first taken over, those guys paid nothing. The labor was cheap and still is cheap. So the money they're making from Liberia is huge. If people, if people know the history, and I encourage my Liberian brothers and sisters to read sometimes, because if you understand the history of Firestone, Liberia actually did the U.S. a favor by allowing Firestone to come and operate in Liberia, because the U.S. needed latex rubber at the time because their industries were developing, and the British were putting embargo on latex that were coming from their colonies. So the Americans needed somewhere to get latex from, and that's how Liberia, became the focus of U.S. Companies. So we had companies like B.F. Goodrich in Bomi County. We had Firestone Rubber Plantation Company in Habel, Kovala Rubber Corporation. So all of these, the point I'm trying to make is Firestone needs to be ashamed of themselves. They need to be ashamed, because Liberia has been with them for these many years. They've made a lot of money out of our people. Sometimes people worked as slaves pretty much on Firestone plantations. And I think it's about time that they gave something back to the people. And, they're saying, oh, we've been losing money because of the war. Well, it's a war. What can we do? You can't blame ordinary people for a civil war. And there was not a lot of operations going on during the Civil War, so they weren't spending money on electricity, on paying staff and things like that anyway, because there was no activities going on. So I didn't look. It's frustrating, because it's horrible to see 600 people lose their jobs, and you just need to multiply that 6 by 5, and you've got 3,000 people who could be affected by that. So each person will have at least 4 or 5 people that they look after, and those extra family members are gone. So you're talking about at least 3,000 people that will struggle because of their family members losing their jobs. And then, like I said, the government is trying something, which is good to see. It's not going to make any difference, but Firestone need to step up and really give something back to Liberia for the first time.
I quite agree with you, because I remember even during the chancellor's trial, when they got to the point of Firestone, he was really, really, really kind of angry about how Firestone has been treating Liberia, and say this is not fair. Even it's quoted the same level of time of the Firestone actually pay for the area, or actually got into concession agreement with Liberia at that time, wherein he said they got in contract with our people for 99 years. He counted up to the seconds of 99, 99, 99 or so. And I think one thing he said there, I remember when they when the management was returning to Liberia after Ecomon arrived or so, and they went to meet him. One thing I took from him there, I remember him asking, he asked the guard let's say Firestone sent back to Liberia to go negotiate for them to start. He asked him, "Oh, you working for Firestone now?" He said, "No." He said, "Oh, you working for Firestone now?" He said, "No. America is talking about America works for Firestone. Firestone don't work for America, but America works for Firestone." I said, "Oh, really?" I couldn't understand what the fellow was saying. But in a nutshell, last time I think it was last week, the people we're talking about here, the 200 people we're talking about here, I don't know whether that number actually, the one they're talking about here is actuality, but what they were talking about in Firestone last week, when the pensioners or would-be pensioners, they were actually demonstrating, and they said, they haven't been paid for months, so they want their money. And the guys with the EFF guys, they went there to help them to get notes from them and hear from them also. And they had a huge multitude of people there, older people, very, very older people, and they was actually angry that they don't have money to send their grandchildren to school, and Firestone keeping their money, and they're giving it, some of them getting ID cards, some of them not getting ID cards or so, for them to process the pay also. So it's there are a lot of things inside as well, because yeah, one thing, it would be good, the negotiation to go ahead for Firestone to at least pause and maybe rethink and listen to the government and continue with the meetings or so. But at the same time, I think what the government should be telling them as well, okay, you know what, the old people you owe, be paying them small in the meantime while we continue with the meeting, because these are the people that have been complaining. They said they haven't been taking their pension, they haven't been getting their pension for months now. Anyway, let's progress a little bit. Thank you so much for that candid analysis. Let's look at the some of the stories. I'll pick in one particular story here that I will read that will actually intertwine with our talking point today. But it's a statement that the collaborating parties released. The reason being is that what all this said there is similar to the points that we thought, or those questions that we stay asking around about the $25 million. So let's quickly grab some of the headlines in the front page here. It says Senate ignored credential of law school student and confirmed him. Let's take this one. We are concerned, the president, we are concerned about looming deportation of Liberians from the USA. That's another story there. This one's the University of Liberia secures loan to ease financial constraints. Fidel, I don't know whether you heard this story about Tottenham University, which is there. It's I can't believe a university is giving $5,250 to run.
No, but the thing is, Max, I was just, before coming on the show, because one of the things that I've never really understood was what is this whole Prople agenda for prosperity and development. So yeah. I went on the Ministry of Finance and Development Planning website just a few minutes ago to look at these 4 pillars that the 4 pillars of the Prople agenda. They talk about capacity building. They talked about macroeconomy to improve the private sector. They talked about a couple of other pillars. I can't remember exactly what the other pillars were. Unity, peace and unity amongst people. That was one of them. And then I think the final one was well, something else. It will probably come to me. But as I'm reading through this document, it's a 20-page document. I'm reading through the document, and I managed to get to the end of it. It's got a lot of goals in it. We want to do this, we want to do this, we want to do this. But what is not there, what this Prople agenda, 4 pillars, or whatever it's called, is lacking, is a clear strategy on how. It's okay having the what. What do you want? Oh, I want $50,000. Okay, so how are you going to get $50,000? Because there's a lot of ways you can get $50,000. Some legal, some illegal. This document has no substance when it comes to the how. So how are we going to get from where we are to achieve all these things you're doing? No platform, no understanding, no strategy. And that comes back to the point that you're making. When someone is given the responsibility of leading a country and they did not present to the voters a platform, because your platform is your plan of action. It's your strategy. What the strategy is, it's just plans. I want to cross the road. How am I going to cross the road? I'm going to look to my right and then I'm going to look to my left. If there is no car coming, then I will look back to my right before I cross the road. That's the how. Everybody knows that you want to cross the road, but we want to know how you're going to get across the road. And this government, the CDC-led government, did, and that's why sometimes I get tempted. I really want to say to Liberian people, well, you're voting for it, so you guys got to bet, but it's how can a group of people vote for someone? It's like giving me a blank check. I come to you, Max, and say, look, I need some money from you, Max. And you say, okay, sign the check, give it to me. You don't put my name on it. You don't put an amount on it. I can put whatever I want to put. In fact, I can put someone else's name on it, put 50,000 on there and give it to somebody, and then 50,000 leaves your account. So the Liberian people decided to give this government a blank check to say, look, here is the check. We've signed it. Do whatever you want to do. Whatever amount you want to put there, put there. These guys, so far, there is nothing that suggests that this government has a clue in terms of strategic planning, how to plan to achieve. Because everything they're saying is all about the goals, what they want to achieve. But what they're not saying to people is how we're going to achieve these things. And if you don't know how to achieve, Max, we all have dreams. We all have dreams. I had a dream. I want to get a PhD. I could have sat down and just be dreaming. But then you have to put it into action. You have to write a proposal. You have to look for universities where they got departments that will offer you the facilities to do your research. You have to look for funding. And then you have to find. So those are things that I sat down, okay, I need to find this. And every time you finish one thing, then you take it off the list. Because everything you finish gets you closer to the goals. So having a goal, everybody has goals. Everybody has goals. Even you go to talk to Zogoden, and Zogoden got goals. Zogoden want a big house. Zogo won't be driving car. Zogo won't get 3, 4, 5 girlfriends. But Zogo ain't got money to get there. How Zogo will manage to get to the goal? Zogo ain't know. So that's why Zogo still doing what Zogo doing. And that is the problem this government has. And the situation with T, look, Mark, to be honest with you, I'll be very, very honest with you. Sometimes when I read the newspaper, I'm losing interest in the country. And that is a very painful thing for me to say as a Liberian, someone who loves my country, someone who wears my badge. Everywhere I go, I've got my flag on my shoulder. I'm losing interest in Liberia. Because every time you see these things happen, you sit there and think, are you guys so stupid? And I'm talking to the Liberian people. Are you so stupid to know that these things were not going to happen? You gave someone a blank check. What do you expect? They will write anything they want to write in it because it's a blank check. These guys did not present a platform to the Liberian people. All they said, hope for change. Nobody even understood what hope for change meant. Everybody knew that we're voting for change. What kind of change? We did not know because the Liberian people were so stupid to not ask for a platform. You live in this country. Like as a permanent resident here, you can vote in council elections. When you go to vote in your council election, you don't just vote because you want to vote. You vote for parties that have a platform that aligns with your principle. Those are the people you vote for. If the Labour Party starts to go too far to the left and you think, I like to be in the center ground, you wouldn't vote for the Labour Party. You find a party that's in the center ground to vote for. It's as simple as that. But the Liberian people gave this government a blank check. That's the simplest way to put it. You have 2 million in your account. You gave me blank check, Max. I will write 2 million on it and go take the money and go. Because if you're silly enough to give me a blank check, I'll do what I want to do with that. And that's what the Liberian people. And now You know, some of us have family members at TU. I've got a cousin who studies at TU. So it affects me directly, even though I'm not in Liberia, even though I didn't vote for the CDC-led government.
Yeah,
It affects me directly because I've
of
got a
course.
cousin who's going to that university who's going to be affected because the tutors
Yeah,
are walking out. So now his education is going to be delayed. And that affects me as a person. It might not affect me financially, but it affects me morally, socially, you know, because I don't want to see a member of my family going through a situation like that. And then
no,
imagine
no.
all of the Liberian and TU, I remember back in 2015, I was this close to applying for a job with TU when I completed my master's degree in 2014. In 2015, I was that close to applying for a job at TU because the person who someone in the HR department I knew that I could get in touch with, but not only that, but I had the qualification and experience to do the job. So I was that close because the university was going places, Max. They were signing partnership agreements with universities in the US. There were students coming from the US to come to the university and spend time at TU. Things they were building new dormitories for students. Things were working well, and I'm sitting there thinking, wow, I would love to go and contribute. And I thank God now that I didn't make that decision because by now I'll be coming back. Because at the end of the day, look, Max, the simple fact is this government, I believe they're trying, but they do not know what they're doing. It's easier to try, but it's harder to try when you don't know what you're doing. And they're
Yeah,
trying. I believe they're trying things, but the things they're trying are not working because they do not have a clue in terms of how to run it. There's no strategic plan. No one is directing the government. And obviously, we'll come on to the situation. I know you're going to talk about what the four parties talked about with this Amos Sawyer thing. So I'll stop here and then let you talk about that, and then we can wrap up from there.
okay. All right, let me just end up with the headlines. Lawmaker presents number 14 Jersey to President. We are in bid to limit his travel. Oh, oh, great.
Sorry, Mike. The
Please,
camera for that.
yeah, you're back. Lawmaker presents number 14 Jersey to President. We are to bid. We are in bid to limit his foreign travels. Okay. Not sure. Okay, those are the headlines actually that are making news in the front page Africa this evening. Let me go quickly because of time to the issues that we have for, but I want to touch on this one first. Let me see what it says. Indicted CBL former Governor Weeks lawmaker debunks insufficient bond claim. Oh, I think you're talking about him now. He's staying in jail, right?
My understanding is that they're out on bail.
About you're talking about this story actually today. All right, let me just read the story quickly and see. Let me see. As opposing arguments ensure between state and defense lawyers over the validity of the bill filed to release 5 indicted Central Bank of Liberia officials, the lawyer of former CBL Governor Milton Weeks insists his client's bond is sufficient. The claim of the insufficiency of the defendant's bond was announced last week when Solicitor General Daku Morba filed a 7-count motion before the court, taking exception to the criminal appearance bond. The bond was filed on behalf of co-defendants Weeks, Charles Salif, Dabo Hagba, Richard Walker, and Joseph Dennis. The 5 men are charged with economic sabotage and criminal conspiracy, amongst others. The 5 senior officials of the CBL were arrested on February 22nd, 2019, after the release of the Presidential Investigative Team PIT report into the missing billions. Though co-defendants Salif, Hagba, Walker, and Dennis have obtained an insurance bond of US 60,000 each from the Accident and Casualty Insurance Company for their temporary release, State Lawyer Councilor Dugba Daku Molba claimed that the bank statements attached to the individual bond is United States dollars, according for the month of February 2019, which he claims reflects a balance of US $21,672.48 as of February 18, 2019. He terms the amount as grossly inadequate and insufficient to absorb the US 240,000 or US 60,000 times 4 bond obligation. Okay, this one we're talking about bonds and everything. Let me quickly expand on this because of time. Okay, because of our talking point tonight has to do with this. We're talking about everything is about monetary. Why is it the GAC as well this morning? We can't even see any press release from them. Okay, and when the issue came up, the four political parties came together and released, gave a press statement. Let me read it. UPLP, ANC, and ALP respond to new audit mandate to the GAC. I think President Weah wants to shield 12 others. So let's get a gist of it. The four collaborating political parties, Unity Party, UP, Liberty Party, LP, Alternative National Congress, ANC, and all Liberian Party, ALP, have categorically denounced President George M. Weah's recent mandate to this General Auditing Commission, GAC, in which he instructed them to conduct a forensic audit, which was asked for in the Presidential Investigative Team's report, alongside the USAID sponsor Crow's report. According to these parties, which are now under the banner Collaborating Political Parties, CPP, they think the president's call is an attempt to shield his finance and development planning minister, Samuel Tuah, and other members of the technical economy management team. The president has directed the General Auditing Commission, GAC, to conduct a forensic audit into the misappropriated, or even stolen US 25 million that was meant to mop up the excess Liberian dollar from the market. We believe that this is an attempt to circumvent justice and shield Finance Minister Samuel Tuah, Central Bank Governor Nathaniel Petrie, and other members of the termed from prosecution. The CPP, which is now being chaired by the former standard bearer of the All Liberian Party, Mr. Bernard Ure, said in a press statement. If the government relied on the investigated report from the Presidential Investigating Team and the Crowell report as a basis for the arrest of Milton Weeks, Charles Salif, and other members of the central bank, these same reports should be used as reliance for the arrest of Minister Tuah and Governor Petrie. The four collaborating political parties and the majority of Liberians are baffled by the government's decision to arrest some Liberians based on these two reports, and at the same time request further investigation when it relates to officials in his government, Minister Tuah and Governor Petrie. We are not comfortable with this decision and believe that this is yet another attempt by President Weah to shield his confidants for the crimes they might have blatantly committed. It is a glaring fact that audit reports are not normally the basis for prosecution. Instead, they create the basis for a further criminal investigation to be conducted by either the Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission, LACC, or the Ministry of Justice, MOJ. While audit reports of the GAC are subject to criminal investigations by the LACC, criminal investigations conducted by the LACC are not subject to audits by the GAC. Audits usually precede criminal investigation. Where we are in the process, with a presidential investigation team (PRT) report already issued by the LACC, the Financial Intelligence Unit (FIU), and the Ministry of Justice (MOJ), which formed the basis for the arrest and prosecution of Milton Weeks et al. We need to use the same pit report to prosecute those responsible for stealing the US 25 million, feeling that and if the government chooses to do further investigation, any such investigation must be a continuation of the pit investigation and could incorporate the GAC to give technical support. Therefore, requesting the GAC to exclusively conduct the forensic investigation to the exclusion of the LACC and the FIU only incites another layer in this process that could create the basis for unnecessary delay to bring to justice all those, including Minister Tue and Governor Petre, who bear culpability for the misuse of the US $25 million. While we appreciate the government effecting initial arrest in the issues surrounding the missing billions, we call on the government to avoid the temptation of applying selective justice. There should be no sacred cowards, as all those implicated in both reports are equal under the laws. Of major concern, also is the finding in both reports that there was possible money laundering in the execution of the mob of exercise conducted by Finance Minister Samuel D. Tue and CBL Governor Natano Petre. This finding is of grave concern to the opposition community and the Liberian populace in general, as it has the propensity to put the country on the spotlight in a negative way and also damages the image that we fought to build over the years. This, in addition to the squandering of the US 25 million by the attempt, is pressing reasons why this issue should be a priority to the government of Liberia. Finally, Mr. President, may we remind you of your commitment to serve the Liberian people, irrespective of their financial, social, or political positions in society. In this view, we would, if you have not already been informed, that the 3 other former and current employees of the Central Bank of Liberia that are still in prison have health challenges. In some instances, even worse than Deputy Governor Charles Sirleaf. Therefore, we are requesting a compassionate release of the 3 as was done for the other while they undergo investigation for whatever crimes they already committed. Fidel, this is it. What we're taking is in terms of what we're talking about the issue of the finances also.
Well, the thing is, obviously, look, when you look at the situation initially, you kind of agree with what the political parties are saying. But then when you take a step back, which I've managed to do over the last week or so, you have to see it slightly differently. The guys who have been arrested for the missing billions, not for the mopping up exercise. Charles Sirleaf, Mr. Weeks, and all of the guys who were arrested, were all being arrested because of their connection to the missing billions or the printed money. What the political parties had a few weeks ago as well was that, the reporters implicating Samuel Tue and they're implicating Nathaniel Petre. I said a few weeks ago, the least that we should have is for these guys to be spoken to by the National Police. They need to go in and they need to have a sit down with the investigators, and questions need to be asked. I'll tell you why. In most countries where there is some semblance of orderly government, if a head of a department bypass norms, like internationally held norms, that if you're transferring money from one place to another, there must be a paper and computer trail. So people must be able to see a digital trail of how the money moved. And there must also be a well-structured, tested paper trail as well. There is nowhere in the world where a head of department will be given money to do a piece of exercise, take that money and give it to individuals at the risk of these individuals corrupting the purpose of that money. Not so much so, but also to the fact that the evidence suggested that areas where they said, oh, 100,000 was changed here, the people are saying, no, we only changed 5,000. So that is clear that there was negligence. And it's not only clear in terms of negligence, but it's also clear that it was a well thought out attempt to defraud the Liberian people. Like I said, the least that the president can do is ask these two individuals to step aside whilst a good and thorough investigation is undertaken by an independent party. If the president, because look, Max, I get what these political parties are saying. In the report, we read the reports, both of them,
Yeah.
and it's clear in both reports, in terms of their mentions of the 25 million, that there were mishaps. Things were done in almost illegal. Look, these guys use phrases, terms like, not phrases, but terms like money laundering. Now, that's not a term that you just throw out there for throwing out their sake. Money laundering is a big and significant. Look, people sit and wonder. And again, I come back to this blank check situation. Liberian people sit there, the hardcore seditions, some of them who are, as we say in Liberia, they are more dragging. They sit there and they're wondering how, up until now, they are mostly dragging. It's simply because nobody wants to throw money away. Nobody. So the international community looks at our country and see that we are not giving them any confidence that we are capable of running a government. So the people will not take their money and come and throw it on you because you're not showing it. I mean, look, I agree with people when they say, oh, look, Ellen mismanaged a lot of the people money and that. I agree because I think, President Sirleaf got a lot of donor aid. She could have done a lot more than she did, in my opinion. That's my opinion and the opinion of many. And she didn't do that. I agree. But the one thing that she did very well was that she instilled confidence in the international community. She made donor partners to give money because she kind of had in place clear processes in how the money was going to be utilized for the good of the country, even though we all don't believe that they were utilized for the good of the country. But she was very clear in terms of how the money was going to be used. This government does not have that. And I agree with the parties when they're saying, look, because look, the president is saying, I don't trust Liberian institutions, so I'm going to go and ask the USAID to commission a report. USAID does the report, and they say, well, okay, I got your report, but I can't go back to my Liberian people, let them do their own investigation. So why didn't you go to the Liberian people in the first place to do the investigation? That's why I keep asking the question. So why didn't you? If you wanted to go to them, then go to them first. Instead of going somewhere else, independent person finished doing the thing, then you can't say, oh, no, let our own people do it now. It is clear in the report. It's not rocket science. Very clear that Mr. Tuer and Mr. Petrie have questions to answer. I'm not saying that they're guilty. I'm not saying that they stole money. I'm saying that they have questions to answer. Why did you decide to take money and put it in people's hands instead of putting the money in the banks, calling up the business people that got the liberty and say, go to the bank and change your liberty? Why didn't you do that? Something that every financial institution must do or would have done. You decided, no, Liberia, now how we can do things here with Prople government. We can take money and put in people's hands. Let them go change the money changer on the side of the road. The same money changers that the president said in his address were illegal people. When he introduced the $25 million policy, he said most of the money changers, they need to close them down because they're illegal. They're not supposed to be on the side of the road. They don't want undermining the currency, flooding the economy with excess Liberian dollars. It's the same people that you go to. So it's like you sit there and you think, honestly, it's like you're banging your head against the wall, because how can someone be so stupid to stand in front of the country and the world and say, look, these people are illegal? And those are the same people your finance and development planning minister and central bank governor go and deal with. And then for you to be man enough to take a stand and punish these individuals, you sitting quietly. And look, like I said, the Liberian people voted for this, and the Liberian people are getting exactly what they voted for. My advice, obviously, recently I read that they're trying to bring Amos Sawyer back to organize a conference and invite international partners. Look, you and I lived in Liberia during the Tiller regime. There was a conference held on Liberia. They offered, they promised $300 million US. Charge ain't get fastened. So they can call a conference. People will promise money. People are not stupid. If they don't believe that you will use their money the way they want you to use it, they won't give it to you. They will promise you. I worked for an organization called Development Initiatives back in 2014, and what we did there is track donor funding. And many times, like you have now with this disaster in Mozambique and Zimbabwe and Malawi, the UN puts out a call. So the UN goes in, assess the situation, and says, okay, look, we need 15 million to address all of these people's problems. America will say, okay, we'll get 20 million. Good. We need another 30. China will say, okay, we'll get 10. Russia will get 10. UK 10. 10. They say, okay, yeah, we got a 50 million and let's go do the work. And then America will send 2 million. So the other 18 coming. You'll be working with the 2 year. You can't. In the end, by the time the project is coming to an end, they've only collected like 7-8 million. The balance, 40-something million didn't come in. People die. Because these countries will go there and make the pledges, but they don't always that's actually 60% of the time when these governments pledge, they do not give more than 70% of what they pledge. There is never a time in recent years where a country pledged money to a call and they gave 100% of that money up front. Not necessarily. They will always give it in drips, drops. Sometimes they will give it in food aid. Sometimes they'll give it in medication. Sometimes they'll give it in tents. You say, okay, we'll send you personnel. We'll send 10 people to you. We'll pay them 100,000 a year. So that's 1 million. So it means our 20 million we pledged, we only supposed to get you 19 million now. So that 1 million you're taking out is not going to the people in Mozambique. It's staying in America. Yeah, it's staying because these people are getting paid in their home country. And so the government, look, my advice, and obviously you read my paper, my article last week. The advice is simple. We have to. It's been done before. Jerry Rawlings did it in Ghana. Thomas Sankara did it in Burkina Faso. It has been done where you've got a country that is struggling economically. You've got a leader who is there to work for the people, and he turns things around. Whatever money that we're generating now, we need to reappropriate the money, invest in food production. We cannot afford to import expensive food. Grow the cheap ones. Grow your own rice. Get your own chicken poultry. I read in the paper recently as well that there's a chicken poultry in Bon County that's going to start supplying eggs to the Liberian market. So those are areas that the government should try and invest money in to expand those things. Produce our own eggs. Try and fish farming. Try and get pig farming. Get sheep. Get goats, cows. Whatever it is, the government needs to start talking. They need to call people who are willing to look. I am willing to help write policies for the government, free of charge. I ain't coming to Liberia to do it. I can sit right here and write a policy, put the action plan, then put the strategy together and send it to them. It's up to them what to do. I don't want their jobs. All we want to see is the country turning around. Because like I said, over an hour, almost an hour ago, I'm losing interest. I'm starting to lose interest in my country. Because every time you read the news, it's going from bad to worse. Every time you read it, it's going from bad to worse. I remember when I read the Firestone thing, and then a couple of my friends sent me other things. Oh no, B Mountain coming through their own door, MNG throwing something to Sami Dabi coming sack. And you're sitting there thinking, this is horrible. How can you have a government that is pro-poor for the people, working in the interest of the poor people, and then you have people's lot getting worse, whilst the leaders are taking expensive trips overseas, whilst they're building big mansions back home, whilst they're getting paid, they're taking their allowances, while other people going months without salaries. Look, there are a lot of Liberians I know out there like you, like me, who are experienced, who are educated, who have the passion and love for Liberia, who are willing to offer their advice free of charge.
Yeah.
Free of charge.
Yeah.
To say, look, we have jobs. We have jobs. We make a living from the jobs that we have. We all want to see our look. You want to retire or go to Liberia before you retire, or when you retire. I want to go to Liberia way before I retire, to go and live, and enjoy my country. Yeah. But we cannot make that move if the country is not doing better. That's why we're offering our services free. Say, look, come talk to us, call us together. Let's have a sit down. What is your plan? And then we can critique your plan. Like, look, this thing is not working because this is not there. You need to put this thing in. You need certain people like this. You need people with these expertise. You need to look. I keep saying it, and I will keep saying it until somebody listens. We need to slash significantly the money we're paying out to government officials in the legislature, in the judiciary, in the executive branch of government. If I want to represent my people, I can go into the house free and represent my people. Because government should be about public service. Service is the key word. Service is the key word. You're there to serve, not to get rich.
No.
People should go into the house to serve. So if they get you 1,000, 2,000, it's enough for you. Take it and do the people's work. When bills come in, look at it, debate the bills. Make sure that, okay, when we pass the bill, what are the practical, look, Max, we those of us who do research and write, you write all these fancy theories, people say, yeah, it's good, but what's the practical implication? How is it going to affect the people's life on a day-to-day basis? Yeah, so you have to then explain to people, okay, by giving someone access to land rights. If you do land rights in Liberia, the old man in the forest, he got a 2 acres of land. He can use that deed to go to the bank and get a loan. And then the loan he can buy materials to grow more food on his farm, things like fertilizers, things like irrigation systems. And then the more food he grow, the more he can sell. And then the government can tax him because that business he gets, so the government gets something from him for that business. Yeah. All because members of parliament sat down and thought about it. Okay, here, these are the rippling effects of passing the Land Rights Act. People will get access to land rights. They'll be able to get loans. They can then develop their own business. They can then pay taxes to government. On top of that, they earn an income. They use that income and go buy in the shop. So the businessmen to make money. Businessmen pay more tax to government. Yeah. Simple things. But you always have to look at the practical implications. And that is where this government is falling short at this particular moment in time. All of the things they're saying, we want this, we want this, we want to get here, we will do this, we will do that. Practical implications are lacking. And when you have an opportunity to show that you mean business, like we have with the Samuel Tuem Patriot situation, the leadership in the country is silent. These guys, like I said, should answer some questions. I'm not saying that they should be prosecuted, but the least they should do is go and sit down with some investigator and why did you? Because nobody, and I'm not a financial expert. I've worked in the bank before, but I'm not a financial expert. But in this country, Max, when you do money business, you have to be very careful. You know that, I know that. Because at the end of the day, there must be a trail. You're sitting out there now, somebody dropped 10,000 in your account just now, boop. Next thing you know, you probably get called from their home office or from somewhere. It's like, Max, where you got 10G from like this? So, money laundering thing, where you on? So at the end of the day, these things are put in place to safeguard people. And for our government to sit there and allow this to slide, it's been 2 weeks now. There's no GSE report. We don't need a GSE report. The US already paid for an independent report. Kroll is a world-renowned forensic investigative accounting firm. They've done their work. It's there. Their name and their reputation rise on what they've written. It's clear, and I've given some examples. There was I think in the report they talk about this one money changing bureau. They went to in the government report. They say, oh, we changed 100,000 here. They went to ask the people said that 5,500 changed. So what happened to the 90-something thousand? Where did they change that? We know that the president said these money changing bureaus are illegal. So then you're not supposed to be going to them to change money. That's the second evidence. Yeah. Why would you go to change money with people who are illegal? The people are not paying taxes. So you go change money with them, they didn't pay tax. So we're losing money by we're doing business with them.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, the evidence are there. And, you take money, you put it in people, you and I, look, it's every time we talk about the thing, you get angry about it, but it's the blank check situation because the Liberian people chose to write a blank check and give it to somebody. And what's happening now? The president, you thought the man, oh man, that man, I'm a man. The man only put 50 pounds on the thing. No, the man put 2 million there. The whole 2 million you have in your account, it clear all. So now you got nothing left. You thought you were going to take 50 pounds, you took the 2 million. Why? Because you made a mistake. You gave the person a blank check. You never give anyone a blank check. Anyone. And that's where we are right now. But look, I believe that things can change. I believe the conference is a good idea. But I believe instead of going to the international community, we should be inviting diaspora Liberians, facilitating their coming to Liberia. So you got Liberian experts overseas. You've got embassies. I've met the new ambassador here in the UK. She's a very articulate woman. Very forward thinking. Get in touch with your embassies and say, look, can you go around your country, see Liberians that you have there, recommend 5 from each country that the government can facilitate to come to Liberia, sit them in a room and have some honest conversations on how we can put a strategy in place to reverse what's happening. Because if we take my austerity recommendation, for example, Max, we can save so much. Even the IMF report said the same thing about the waste that we have in government in terms of salaries and allowances. That if we cut back, if we clean those salary and allowances, gas slip, scratch card stuff out of government, we can save so much money. If we manage that money well, Firestone fire 2,000 people weren't complaining because we got farms for them to go work on. It just means we'll grow more food and then we'll start selling food to our neighbors. That's all it means. It means we got more people, we got more hands, we'll grow more food, expand the farm. But we need to look. If you look at a country like Vietnam, one of the reasons that Vietnam is as high up the ladder as they are now is through agriculture. They are one of the world leaders in rice production. So at the end of the day, agriculture, the US is an agriculture producing country. Brazil, it's one of the reasons why Brazil is as big as it is in terms of financial strength. These are all big agriculture power nations. China, India, we need to invest in agriculture because one, we need to eat. So we need food. We need to invest in agriculture because we need to feed ourselves. Once you're feeding yourself, your cost goes down. Let me just give an example to wrap up, Max. In Liberia, when you and I lived back in the 90s or wherever it is, what you notice usually was that when you work with an entity, you get bag of rice. Yeah, you get your bag of rice at the end of the month. You put it in the house. It means that you don't have to buy rice by cup. Not buying rice by cup means you save a lot of money because if you buy it by cup, it's more expensive. If you go buy 3-4 cups every day, you probably pay twice as much as what you pay, what the bag of rice will cost you. Yeah. So if you have the bag of rice, then you reduce your expenditure on rice. If you buy a gallon, some people buy a gallon of oil, red oil, gallon of cooking oil, keep it in the house. They buy their things, big boxes wholesale. Buy them wholesale.
Mm-hmm.
When you buy things wholesale, they're cheaper. It means that when you're going to work on a Monday morning or Tuesday morning, you're only buying fish and soup. You know, so you tell them, okay, there's the money for the potato leaves. Here's the money for the fish. Here's the money for the meat. We've got cubes. We've got oil. We've got rice. So your daily expenditure has gone lower because you invested in cheap stock. So all we need to do, and this is I'm teaching people, you know, I hope the government will listen to this. All we need to do is find a way of getting the rice and the palm oil and those basic things then that we can produced in Liberia, so that we don't have to go and import it. So instead of paying $50 for a bag of rice, we'll probably pay $20 because it's produced right in Liberia. You don't have the high cost of transporting them on the sea to bring them because it's coming from Bon County or from Lofa or from Nimba or from Grand Coup, wherever it come to wherever you are. It's cheaper. And what that does, it means that the $100 or $200 that someone makes can go further because they're saving $30 on rice. And for me, there are Liberians better than me. There are Liberians more educated than me. There are Liberians who are smarter than me, who've got more experience than me, that can bring more ideas like these, practical ideas, to the table. Because our economy is going down a route that if we don't arrest it now, it will become very, very horrible. And the problem with it, Max, is you know how it is. Where you live is peaceful because the economy there does well. If you go into the inner cities of London, where the economies are not doing so well, where you've got a lot of young kids just sitting around doing nothing, there are a lot of crimes. You have knife crimes, gun crimes, drugs, and things like that. Wherever you have isolated young people who are not doing anything, they get involved in crime. And that's exactly where we want to, that's where Liberia is going to go if we do not arrest the situation now. So, look, the conference is a good thing. I don't think Amos Sawyer should be the one leading it. That guy has been around forever. He's old. You need someone with a fresh mind. You need someone like a Robtel Paley, for example. Someone who's written on corruption, who's not just written a book on corruption, but she was in Brazil recently talking about her work. You want someone who's new, who's fresh, who can come up with new ideas. People like you, people like me, people from the U.S. who are young Liberians who are doing things. I've got names of friends of mine who are in the U.S. working with the U.S. Customs, working with U.S. Department of Agriculture. These are guys who have the expertise and the experience, and they can come there. It's for a weekend, 3-day conference. We come there, we sit down, make sure that the conference proceedings come out, and it's clear, step by step, how you can get this thing done. And then the international community will be willing to listen because they can see a clear plan in terms of where we want to go. But we need to do something. It's getting dire, and we need to arrest the situation right now.
All right, Fidel. Well, I mean, we want to say because of time, but we want to say thank you. At least you added an additional couple of minutes there to it. But finally, what's your thought then as far as, even though, because this is the presidential mandate, the president gave GSE, I know you've been talking about it, you don't need to, but as far as the mandate is concerned, since they didn't live up to the 2 weeks ultimatum the president gave them, what should happen there? What you think? Is this some kind of a challenge to the president order or what?
No. I think, look, if the report from last week is true, that the GAC did not receive a written request, then you can't expect the GAC to conduct an investigation. And what
it's all about policies, right?
Well, it's not. It's about. Look, let me say it this way.
Policy and procedures, yeah.
No, that now you hit the second part on it. Procedures. We're not beating. We want to beat Samuel Tuwe and Nathaniel Petrie for not adhering to procedure. If the GAC go and start doing audit without getting paper, it will be breaking procedure as well. So we were telling them, look, we won't punish the 2 people for breaking the procedure. They should have put the money in the bank. They didn't do it. They gave it to people. The people went to go change money. Then the GAC too now, the president just go on radio and say something, and they to start doing investigation without written declaration or written request, then they too will be breaking protocol or breaking away from norms and procedures. So I believe, look, I believe if it is true, if the report is true, the GAC is saying that, look, we've not received a written request, the GAC should not conduct any audit until they have a written request from the government of Liberia, from the office of the president or wherever it needs to come from to say, can you do this audit? I think if they go ahead and do it just on the words of the president, that would be irresponsible. That would be non-procedural, and we don't want that. Look, this government is already marred by missteps and disregard for the law. Obviously, we know with the law student who was appointed to a specialist court in Sino County that you read earlier. We know we've got dropouts who are holding top government positions. College dropouts. So at the end of the day, this government, will send an ambassador to the U.S. without being confirmed by the national legislature. So these are things that the government is doing with total disregard to the law. And you don't want the GAC, who is supposed to be an independent body, to go and do the same thing as well. We need some, and that's why this whole impeachment thing with Cabinet Janet is frustrating as well, because we don't need it right now. At the end of the day, it's politically motivated. It's undermining our democracy. We have bigger fish to fry in terms of our economy. People are dying. There are children starving in Liberia. There's children not going to school and university at Tottenham University. I was listening to the president of the Nimba County Community College the other day, Edward Wonkeyo. He was talking about the fact that they don't have enough money. Government of Liberia owe them so much money they won't pay. So at the end of the day, we cannot have a situation like this where the worrying thing about it for me, Max, is the fact that our president goes overseas on these trips and we do not see anything tangible that comes out of the trips. All we get is promises. People just promise, oh, we'll do, don't worry, we'll do. And nothing's happening.
I keep laughing when I hear about the tangibles, when those guys, even if they recently when they went to UAE, somebody, from the inside there posted, oh, yeah, God, President Buya will succeed. The tangibles are working. We're on the tangibles. I can just read a post and say, yeah, Liberia will use that for good. Anyway, Fidel, for tonight, let's say because of time, we want to say thank you. You added, many minutes on top of the time you allotted us. But we appreciate this very much, and we want to say once again, thank you very, very much. We want you to enjoy the rest of your weekend as well. But let's hope that the president listening to the advice, and one of these days you can receive some kind of a call and say, Mama, I want you to come and help us also. It's all about Liberia anyway.
I don't think it should be. I don't think it should be a personal call, because personally, I don't know if I'll take a personal call from the president. But I think we've got our representative of the president here in our ambassador, who I'm happy to take a personal call from, and she can organize that. Similarly, in other countries where we have Liberian diaspora communities, you can have the ambassadors do. The president don't have to call people personally. He's got better things to be doing than to call somebody like me.
Most of the guys that went there, they call them personally.
Ambassadors the one doing that. And I will definitely go and make my contributions. All we can do is come up with the policy documents, make sure that they're strategically sound, step by step broken down, so people know how to go. And we're always going to be a phone call away. I'm you probably be getting a call from me quite soon, Max. Because there's an idea I've been flirting with since last year. Spoken to a couple of individuals about it, and we have to. I know we're running out of time, but I just want to talk some more.
No. I'm conscious. I only concerned about you. For me, I can say when you leave, by the time you finish, I will have to read this letter to the listeners. This letter from the GST.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, look, we're passionate about our country. Even though we're losing interest, but we don't want to lose interest. And soon, we've said things a lot to this government, and they don't want to listen. We need to find new ways of saying things, and hopefully maybe they'll listen. And I'm working on an idea that I believe will provide a good platform for Liberian diasporas here in the UK. And very soon, not just you, but our listeners as well will hear something significant that will be coming out of the UK in terms of our efforts to help. Because Max, my dream is once, I won't be old when I go to Liberia. I want to be in a state where I can still contribute to my country.
Yeah.
I won't be 60 years old when I go to Liberia to contribute, maybe 50 or something like that. But then at the same time, we can't go back when we don't have in place the right framework for people like us to succeed in terms of making sure that we can help improve our country.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, very soon, you get a call from
Okay.
me, and there will be a meeting of the minds. I will
Yeah.
put forth my platform that will hopefully become our platform in terms of those who will buy into it, and then we can work it out, and then we can start to engage with the government constructively, uh, and see how. Because look, I don't, Liberian people keep saying, "Oh, and the government one can do everything." My brother, my sister, it is the responsibility of the government to make sure that its citizens are taken care of. If
Yeah.
the government don't have the institutions to do it, they can ask a private institution to do it, but they have to come up with the policies for businesses to come to Liberia and do business, and for the private sector to grow. The Liberian government must put in place the right policies. They must put in place the right framework to make Liberia a business-friendly country. They
Mm-hmm.
need to try and reverse corruption, waste. We need to manage the little we have very well. We need to improve our infrastructure. It's not going to happen overnight. We know that. But Sierra Leone is getting 300 million from the IMF. Ever since IMF been talking about giving us something, I want or something can. Eh? We went to the Eton loan and the other loan, IMF say you lead a team. We say no. They cash on now. We say okay, IMF will leave it. IMF say will give us something. I want something can. Sierra Leone getting their own or something. Why I want or something can? It's because the people in trust us with the something. Eh? So we have to put in place look, the president, okay, transparency. That was the other pillow. Yes, it just clicked now. Transparency. And transparency and accountability is lacking. The president says,
Easy.
oh, to the BBC reporter, I don't want to release my assets declaration because it got my bank details in there. I want to protect my children. And then I sat there and I thought, I'm sure I downloaded his 2014 asset declaration. So I went on my laptop and checked, and I saw it. I wanted to put it online, but I thought, let me leave it. Because you cannot tell me in 2014, because as far as I know, the president born no new children. So the same children he talking about, the same children he had in 2014.
Yeah.
So in 2014, you weren't worried about your children's future and the risk to their lives of releasing your assets in 2014. Now you're not worried about that. But then come to 2016 now, then you worry. So the only thing that's changed is you're going into a higher office where transparency is more demanding than it was when you were a senator. You released it when you were a senator, or when you were running to become a senator. You were happy to release it. You didn't have issue with that. Publicly, not just release, but release it publicly. Everybody look at it. You can see I got it. If you don't have it, I'll email it to you for you to have a look at it.
Yeah. That's funny.
It's oh yeah, it's there. So what changed? It's like simple things like that. If you want to lie to people, think about the lie first before you lie. You can't lie, then the people can see through the lie clearly. That say that and think, come up with something better to lie, why you don't want to release your assets. Or say something like, it's up to the GFC if they want to release it or not. And then behind the scene, you can tell them, I don't release that thing. That's how people can lie. But you can't go get that kind of lie there, then the lie backfire. Soon you finish talking to everybody, say, but I lying cool lie there, Mr. President. Because you released the thing 2014. Then when it comes to 16, I said, no, I can't release it because I will put my family at risk. So the first time you're not at risk when you release it. So how it's not different. Its documents is the same. You put in the same information. Maybe the zero then I get plenty. That the only thing, but what else you releasing? Because the old one, they redacted all your bank account numbers. They will always redact the bank account number. I was speaking to someone yesterday. who I needed to prove my address, and they said, "Oh, we need to see your bank statement." So I took my bank statement, and they said, "We need to make a copy of this." I'm like, "Fine." And the lady said, "Look, how I'm going to make the copy? I'm going to cover the numbers, like all your, and I will just photocopy the part that got your name and address and the name of your bank.
That's
So
it.
nobody will see how much zeros I got in my account."
No.
Exactly. So if you're worried about, we need to see the zeros. We don't need to see the account number. So they redact, take the account numbers out. The same thing
Then
they
take
did
that
with the
out.
report.
Yeah,
The
give us
same
the
thing they
other
did
one.
with Kroll. The same thing Kroll did with their report. They redacted certain things.
Yeah.
That's all we do. So for the president to look the Liberian people, but again, we come back to the blank check, Max. The Liberian people decided to give the president and his guys a blank check. So when he read it, he was just lie to them, even though that's good lie, but they can't do nothing about it because they decided to do what they wanted to do. So, but anyway, thanks for having me on tonight, Max. And
it's always a
we,
pleasure. I mean,
yeah,
to be honest, it's always a pleasure because I know we can get a lot from you as well, especially on every Friday or so. It's always a pleasure. Hopefully, next Friday will be, if you're around, will be our last one. We're going to take nearly 7 weeks break until we come back, hopefully from abroad also. Yeah, but obviously we talk off air on that note as well. Perhaps
yes,
yeah, I'm trying to put together when I get back there. But maybe we'll put heads together and then get somebody as well.
okay,
So
man.
if I have the opportunity, I can borrow those ideas and advance it as well. Just everything we're just talking about, and put it before somebody and say, well, this is it. We don't want anything, but if you can take this, that's it. That's fine. If you can take these pieces of advice, that's it. So Fidel, thank you so much, and do have yourself a wonderful, wonderful weekend then.
All right, Max. Same to you.
Okay. All right, guys. Let me just read this. Let me just read this communication to you from GSC. Just remember that the GSC, the GSU, actually 2 weeks up. The ultimatum the president gave them expired today, and up to now we can see any press release from them. But this is what they said the last time in response to the president mandate towards tempt US 25 million mop-up exercise to be audited by GSA in 2 weeks. You remember the last time the president spoke and he gave them 2 weeks to do the forensic investigation, GSA. So let me read the letter. They responded to the president by writing this letter. Just days after they said, he said the recent independent investigations into the missing 16 billion saga had vindicated his CDC government. Remember that time the president said, "Oh, we are vindicated, we are vindicated." President George Manuel Weah has suggested or requested the General Auditing Commission, GAC, to do an investigative audit into how the US 25 million given for mop-up exercise was expanded. The executive mansion announced on Thursday that President Weah's request was given through a directive to Justice Minister Mossadegh. It is said that the directive grew out of the Presidential Investigative Team's report, which calls for a framework for a forensic investigation of the entire mop-up exercise carried out by the Central Bank of Liberia, CBL, and the report done by Kroll, an institution of international repute, which was commissioned by the U.S. government. The CBL is part of the technical economic management team, which is headed by Finance Minister Samuel Toy, and President Weah last justly ordered the EMT to carry out the exercise. The Kroll Associates Incorporated report speaks of gross discrepancies and calls for for further understanding of how the exercise was concluded or conducted. The Presidential Investigative Team (PRT) reports also speaks of gross discrepancies in the handling of the mop-up exercise and gross even further by said the implementation of the exercise bordered on a criminality. The GSS is given a 2-week mandate to report on their findings. In July 2018, the Liberian government approved the infusion of US $25 million into the Liberian economy in order to bring about stability on the market. The Crew report said, given the many discrepancies observed throughout the investigation in relation to the operations of the Central Bank of Liberia in executing its statutory mandate, there is a need to review the standard operational procedures, SOP, banking supervision, and internal controls of the Central Bank of Liberia to curb the possibility of abuse of the money supply of the nation, as well as enhancing efficiency and productivity. 3.7 to further protect currency banknotes in reserve. The Central Bank of Liberia should consider discontinuing the use of the vote on the erstwhile National Housing and Saving Bank. Actually, well, this is a core report actually, but I think we're going to end here for tonight. Alright, on this note, I want to say that this is how we're going to end the program, the print news review on this Friday. Beautiful, beautiful Friday. Friday and Friday night, isn't it? Thank you so much for being there. By the grace of God, we catch you next week again on another edition of the program, the print news review. We don't do it, nothing. Liberians are free, Liberians. See it, we don't do it, nothing. Liberian people suffering, Liberians today. All right, then. On this note, let me say I want to wish you a pleasant weekend. May God bless you. May God bless the continent of Africa. And above all else, may God bless Mama Liberia. What is this special interest? Special interest? We are tired. We are tired. Tired. We are tired. Liberians are free, Liberians today. We see it. We are doing nothing.